Hi again from the garden. So this week was a week of some random projects in the garden. I definitely didn't get as much done as I wanted to. We had a couple of rainy days, which was great because last year was a pretty significant drought. But I still wanted to post a video this weekend as usual, so I thought that I would just share with you guys some of the various projects that I worked on this week, including one big one, which was the foundation for my greenhouse that's going in. Okay, so here's the foundation for my greenhouse. This will be a 6x10 hobby greenhouse. Around it will be all cut flowers along with my 2 side flower beds. And then the back half of this planting area is going to be all vegetables. You can see I have a couple pathways with landscape fabric put in, but in that area will be sweet corn, tomatoes, potatoes, and then I'll also have a few different structures around the garden to trellis some vine crops as well. So for the foundation of my greenhouse, I used these 12x12 patio pavers. They were about $1.50 a piece, and so they were super economical. I didn't want to put the greenhouse just on the bare ground. I wanted something below it, and so these seemed like a really good option. So before I put them down, I had to level everything out, and I knew this part of the garden had a pretty big slope to it. It actually was bigger than I thought, and so I chose to put topsoil down. Now I chose topsoil over garden soil because topsoil has sand in it, and I thought maybe that wouldn't settle as much, and so that's just what I chose. So we'll see how it works. But I first leveled everything out, and then I packed it all down, and then I put the pavers down, and I made sure to level them this way with the line of the pavers, but then also this way. And I'm sure once I put the actual greenhouse and foundation down, there will be a little bit of tweaking that I'll have to do, but it actually is pretty level right now. And then for the inside of the greenhouse, I put down landscape fabric. I used the DeWitt brand, and I wanted to do this because I want to keep the inside of the greenhouse as clean as possible. And then on top of this landscape fabric, I'm probably going to put either wood mulch or pea gravel. I haven't decided exactly which yet. I'm leaning towards pea gravel right now. I don't plan to plant anything in ground inside of the greenhouse, but I will have a potting table and then some grow bags in here. So then the next step in my process when I install the greenhouse is to put the base down. Supposedly it does not need to be anchored in. I guess we'll find that out or not. We get some pretty good wind that comes through here, and so I'm hoping that I don't have to anchor it in. If I do, we'll just screw it right into the landscape pavers. And then after that, I need to come in and amend all the soil around my greenhouse. What I think that's going in these beds is some snapdragons, so I'll be planting those fairly soon. And then in the vegetable area behind me next week, I'll be getting my potatoes in. This is the other bed that I really spent a lot of time on this week. This one I kind of let go last year, and so it was full of a lot of weeds. And so yesterday afternoon, I spent most of my afternoon digging this out and removing all of the weeds and the roots. And so hopefully I have a good fresh start with this year. I had a few miscellaneous perennials in here that I dug out yesterday and moved to a spot outside my fence. I think I moved 7 Shasta daisies. There's still a couple lavender plants in here, some delphiniums, some echinacea, and those I will also be moving to the perennial garden outside the fence. That space will have more of a cottage garden feel, and then this year this bed will be full of pro-cut sunflowers for my cut flower garden. Those should be a really good seller at the farmer's market come the end of summer. So this is the other bed that I was doing some work on this week. This bed was pretty much full of weeds and grasses, just like the spot behind me, and so I cleaned all of that up. There were 2 Carl Forester perennial grasses here that got moved to the outside of the fence, and then there are still 2 very small Shasta daisies that are left, and those will probably get moved as well. My plan for this spot is to tear up the landscape fabric and remove the mulch, and then this will be also full of cut flowers. I'm thinking in this spot I'll put either celosia or some straw flowers. Behind me is where all my sunflowers will be, and so I'm able to put something tall here because I know those are going to get really tall. And now that my pathways are all moved to 3-foot pathways instead of 4-foot pathways, I'll mulch these just like the rest of the areas, and then it'll be time to start planting. So when I transplant perennials, I always try to do it on a day that's not super hot because I don't want them to wilt a lot. And then I always try to dig up as much of the root ball as possible, and then before I put them in their new hole, I put a little bit of plant tone in there for fertilizer. And then yesterday while I was at it, I fertilized all of my existing perennials, and it was perfect timing because we got rain last night, and so all of that got watered in. All right, so that's it for this video. I know I didn't have a ton going on this week because of the weather, but I still wanted to post a video on the weekend as usual, and I did want to give you an update on how the foundation went in for my greenhouse. So far, next week's weather looks really good, so I should be able to get a really good start on my greenhouse and definitely get my potatoes in. So we'll see you soon.